I believe I'm ready to read some more. But I wanted to tell you something a little bit about right now. There is a worldwide pandemic, the COVID-19 coronavirus, and people are working hard to get a vaccine for it. But so we're wearing masks outside, out in public, and having social distancing, and washing our hands and trying to be careful. And in seminary today, so I help the students in seminary. There's a freshman class that I go to. It's so fun. And the kids, one of the boys that gave the opening prayer today, well, some of them are really self-conscious about what they say and stuff, and I don't say much about it. I just say, good job. But anyway, this kid, he said he's very thoughtful and wants to learn more and doesn't mind. Anyway, he said that the effects, he asked Heavenly Father that the effects of COVID would be eliminated or something, like that. And so, after the prayer and song and everything, and I was so complimentary about everything, but I said I wanted to make sure that we thought a little bit about our trials and our challenges in life and how we grow from them, and that the effects of having a hard time, there's negative and positive. And the negative things, we want to not have that take over and be like something that makes us bitter or hardened. But the positive effects, if you can imagine or look into your life right now and see that there are positive things coming from hard situations. And so, I've been up and going with this class. It's November now, and we started in September. And so we have in people class, and some people we alternate. So some people can come in with their masks and sit far away from each other, and some people have to zoom in on the computer. And so I set up stuff so that we can all hear each other and see each other and stuff. Well, I set it up at the beginning of when we started in September, and this morning when I went to set it up, nothing was coming up, and I was like, oh no, okay, well. And so I looked for it. I was trying to get it wherever it had gone, get them set back up, because they're used to just getting on and going. And so I had to make a new link, and the kids started coming, and I was like, help me, and they were helping me get the ID codes and the passcodes and such, and sending it out to invite them, the ones that weren't coming in. And they were we were all just working so good together. And at the end of class, I talked about how I just feel like we've really grown, and I couldn't think of the word. I was like, we're learning and we're together. But what I feel like is that we're stronger. And so I was bearing testimony of that and thanking Heavenly Father for it. But we have to have hard times in order to get stronger. It's pretty cool. So anyway, I am reading the book. Actually, I'm not just lecturing you. Okay, so we were in the Civil War days, and I should have looked ahead and been like, okay, right in half. I'll read this part and then this part the next day. But anyway, there's more of Civil War days. And we were right about, I'll just read the last sentence of the paragraph I was on. Lowe was an uncomplaining sufferer from malaria the rest of his life. He was sometimes dispirited by the tedium and hardships of soldiering and reversals of the North's military fortunes. But he had a resiliency that enabled him to quickly overcome depression. One of his most notable attributes was his patriotism. He spoke unabashedly of the glorious stars and stripes. Sam Croft, a Yankee soldier who had a sharp sense of humor, said, "We have had 2 hours drill. Dinner consisted of a pint of bean soup, 2 water crackers the size and shape of a soda biscuit, and a piece of fat bacon. Who wouldn't be a soldier?" The garrison routine was not much different from that of more recent times. The soldier's day began with revelry, sounded about dawn. The sleepy-eyed men would line up in the chill gray morning for roll call. That over, they would fall out for breakfast. They often did their own cooking. Breakfast was followed by sick call, guard mounting, and then 2 or 3 hours of drill before lunch. After the noonday meal, the soldiers rested for a while, then drill again for about 2 hours. Fall two was sounded soon after dark to assemble the soldiers for a final roll call before they went to their quarters. The day ended about 9 p.m. with taps. There was no drill on Sunday, but cleaning up quarters and clothing and equipment for the weekly inspection that took place shortly before noon. Their guns were called mules on account of their kicking propensities. It was a serious change in a man's mode of living from a home of freedom and plenty to one of the strictest discipline. It was a rare soldier who did not suffer some kind of illness during his service. One day during the thick of battle, Lowe's horse was shot from under him. He fell with the horse and pretended dead. He lay there until later, when carpetbaggers came along, and watching his chance at the point of a gun, he forced one man to give him the horse he had. The horse he mounted was one belonging to his comrade Ed Clark. Lowe then rode on and caught up with his own company. This is an official list published in order of battle in which the 2nd Cavalry Regiment bore an honorable and important part. Avalaise, Prairie, Marvana, Yellow Bayou, Pine Barren Creek. Following are quotations from letters Lowe received from comrades of his regiment. So many of these letters have statements of the poor health of the sender. February 8th, 1883. So like years and years later, obviously. Well, maybe not years, maybe 20 years. Anyway, 1883. Sometimes I have wondered if some of the dates were have typos, but I'll just read it how it is. Okay, 1883. My dear comrade, your letter of the 9th ULT came safely and surprised me not a little, as I did not expect to hear from you again. I have just received my pension and will do anything I can to help you, but I can't swear to anything that happened to our company after the 17th September 1864, because I was taken prisoner at that time. Your old comrade, O.R. Evans, Peabody, Maine. And May 1883, dear comrade, yours of the 7th ULT. Came in due time to find me down with a low bilious fever, from which I am just recovering. I assure you I was glad to hear from you, but sorry to hear of your poor health. I have not been confined to the house with much sickness since I was discharged, but I haven't seen what I call a well day and never expect to again. I hope you get your pension without any great delay. I got mine in 1867 for my wry neck. You remember it was drawn to one side? I only get $7 a month. I had the scurvy at the same time you did. You remember, in my mouth, and I have to lose all my teeth on account of it. I think of applying for an increase of my pension, but it takes so long that it is a chance if I will live long enough to get it. Write to me again soon. Give me a description of Utah and how you came to go out there, your occupation, etc. I am fraternally yours, James E. Smith, 3 Dickva Place, Cambridge, Fort, Massachusetts. When the southern states began to secede from the Union as a result of Abraham Lincoln's election to the presidency, the United States flag contained 33 stars. The admission of Kansas on January 29, 1861 increased the number to 34. This flag remained standard throughout the war years, though the admission of West Virginia in mid-1863 and Nevada in the fall of 1864 called for two more stars. The 34-star flag was the one usually carried in battle. Because President Lincoln refused to recognize the Confederacy as an entity, the stars for the 11 states in rebellion were never removed from the banner. Despite some harsh criticism from radicals in the North, the Stars and Bars, first national flag of the Confederacy, was adopted in February 1861. It was used in the first major battle, fought at Manassas Bull Run. The emblem was oblong with 2 red bars separated by a white bar, and a field of blue containing a star for each state formed into a circle. When the outcome of Bull Run hung in the balance on the afternoon of July 21st, 1861, Confederate General P.G.T. Beauregard was anxiously awaiting reinforcements. Through his binoculars, he saw a column of troops approaching, but their flag, so similar to the Union banner and drooping on its staff, could not be identified. Then a sudden puff of wind spread the emblem, and he knew that help was arriving. Though the Confederates won the battle, Beauregard determined that his men henceforth should have a banner easily distinguishable from the stars and stripes of the Union. The result was the battle flag, a red square with two wide blue bars bordered in white, crossing each other diagonally from one corner to the other. On each bar were 6 white stars, with another at the center crossing. The 2 extra stars were for the expanded edition of Kentucky and Missouri. They never seceded. This flag was never officially adopted by the Confederate government, but it was so widely used that it became, and still is, by many, identified with the Southern cause. 2 other flags were adopted by the Confederacy, but are less well known. One made official on May 1863 was a white oblong with the battle flag in the upper left-hand corner, the last, adopted on March 4th, 1865. It had a red bar upright at the end of the white flag. Perhaps it was a last call to renewed hope for the fighters of the lost cause. That was quoted from an article on Ralph Newman's Civil War scrapbook. The Civil War divided the people of the United States and South against the North. Many persons call this tragic conflict the war between the states, the war of the rebellion, the war of the secession, or the war for Southern independence. But whatever it is called, the war was a great turning point in American history. It destroyed slavery in the United States. It settled the question of whether a state could secede, and it finally cemented the union of the states. The Civil War took more American lives than any other war in history. It divided the people of the United States so that in many families, brother fought against brother. The 4 years of bloodshed left a heritage of grief and bitterness that remains even today. The Civil War started on April 12, 1861, with soldiers with Southern artillery shelled Fort Sumter in the harbor of Charleston, South Carolina. It ended 4 years later on April 19, 1865. Confederate General Robert E. Lee surrendered his ragged, exhausted army to General Ulysses S. Grant at Appomattox Courthouse in Virginia. That was from the World Book Encyclopedia, Volume 4, page 472. I might have said Charleston, SC, although I have been to Charleston, South Carolina, and got to go to some of these tours, some of this Civil War stuff, and I, after hearing things and reading things, I'm beginning to know what's going on with the Civil War and geography of that. Anyway, continuing. I remember my father telling me of the battle at Appomattox Courthouse, where a schoolmate, Ed Clark, was wounded. From the adjacent general's report in the library at Bangor, Maine, I copied this. Elisha E. Clark, age 19, single, from Limerick, York County, Maine. First Sergeant, wounded September 27th, and prisoner. I have every reason to believe that this was my father's friend, the one who entered the army with him, and when wounded, the one father stayed with and nursed. It was about 1 o'clock on April 19th, 1865, that General Grant arrived at the village of Appomattox. Sheridan was waiting and accompanied him to the courthouse, where he shook hands with General Lee. Previously, Grant had pinned down Lee's army eastward and cut off their supplies. Grant's line was south and west, threatening to encircle the Confederacy's last stand. The threat to Lee's rear broke his front. He was desperate for supplies. Lee was floundering. 4 ration trains were waiting at Appomattox Station. But when Lee's weary and starving army arrived, Sheridan was there ahead of him and had already captured the trains. Lee was trapped in the valley. Then the South's great general asked to meet his enemy. Despite his nickname of unconditional surrender, Grant actually gave his valiant enemy honorable and generous terms. The principal specification came at the end, when he allowed the soldiers of the Army of Northern Virginia to simply go home, paroled, with a pledge that they would not be disturbed, but were to take any horses or mules that belonged to them and till the fields and plant crops. Lee accepted Grant's terms, as he knew he must. In reflection, we can feel the emotion that flowed through that room that day. It marks the moment of which it was at last silently recognized on both sides that these United States were to be forever one and indivisible. The generals parted. The regiment to which Company L belonged spent 2 years in the Army, most of it in the state of Florida, and was discharged from United States service December 6, 1865, at Barrancas, Florida, by Lieutenant E.M. Schreiber, ACM. Okay, in accordance with an order from the War Department. One might question why these boys, who had lived in the cool, clear air of the North, were sent into the swamps and everglades of Florida, but who were better able to live and fight under such circumstances than these fine, healthy, robust specimen of young manhood. When this regiment returned, however, they were not the gallant youth who rode away in their new uniforms of blue, but worn out, ragged soldiers. That is quoted according to the Saco Valley State Settlement Report by G.T. Redlon. Lowe returned to his home in Limerick, Maine, where Dr. Sweeney, the old family doctor, treated him for the scurvy and malaria he had contracted in the army. He had served many months under Captain Libby of his hometown and thought a great deal of him. Captain Samuel H. Libby is buried in Limerick, as confirmed by a letter from Jenny S. Sadler. Limerick, Maine, March 1st, 1945. Dear Mrs. McGregor, my sister lives in that part of Limerick known as Emery's Corner. And in the old cemetery there is a stone marked Captain S.H. Libby, died July 28, 1871, age 31 years, 4 months, 12 days. Also on the stone is the square dividers and 3 links with FLD in the links. There was no regiment written there. Around here, he was always spoken of as Sammy, so of course his name was Samuel. Without doubt, this is the one you were inquiring for when you were here. Yours truly, Jenny S. Sadler, Limerick, Maine. Shade of the Elm Inn. Years later, after Lorenzo had joined the Mormon church, he did the temple work for his captain, Libby, who was born March 16th, 1840. I have his statement showing this. Okay, that's good. The next part is another part. What did I think of? Oh, yes, that tomorrow is Veterans Day. Yeah, I think it'll be November 11th. Veterans Day, and how blessed we all are and how proud we must be of those who have fought and died and sacrificed so much for us. And I think that's it for today. Thanks. I love you. Bye.